Okay. All right. So I should be live now. Um, well, everybody, welcome to another episode of our daily space roundup. So it's not quite daily just yet, but we're trying to get it up there. I'll be the host for today's episode. For those who are not aware, I'm Nathan. I'm a writer and researcher for What About It. I've been here for a bit, but yeah, I'll basically be talking about what's going on in the space industry over the past day or two. So, for those who are unaware, just recently, everyday astronaut Tim Dodd, he was able to do an interview with Elon Musk, and yeah, hold on, I'm getting some feedback real quick. Uh, okay, there we go. Sorry about that, but yeah, he was able to get an interview with Musk, and it provided a bunch of interesting updates. One of which is that looks like the Tower 2 is going to be taller than we originally thought. So right now, it's got basically it's the tower sections are essentially the same height as the first tower with roughly the same number of sections, and like there's some slight changes such as near the top where they've made some structural changes to make them easier to stack, but other than that it's roughly the same height. And there was also a filing with the FAA not too long ago basically stating once again that it was going to be about the same height. But during the interview, Musk essentially confirmed that no, it's actually going to be taller. In fact, it'll be tall enough for the next V2 Starship, which will be significantly taller than the current Starship. So we'll definitely have to see what their plan is. There are a few theories going around right now, one of which is that they'll stack the tower at the current height and then maybe add some more sections later just by removing the top and maybe adding a few more sections. Another one is that there's possibly some sections we've missed, maybe some that are just being built somewhere else, so we just don't know that they're on their way. That one, it's possible, and there are quite a few space enthusiasts all over the place, so if they did manage to build a few tower sections that we do not know about, that would be impressive. And of course, they could just end up building more, and that might mean the tower would take a little longer to finish construction, but it's possible. But yeah, so these are the tower sections that are currently at Starbase. These are at the build site, and they've been doing some work on it because we're expecting them to roll probably within like the next week or two. Once the crane is done, and the crane is basically almost done at this point, like they'll be able to stack it, and then also they need to finish filling in concrete at the current base of the tower, essentially. So once that's done, these will be able to be rolled over, but that shouldn't take much longer than about a week. So we should start seeing the tower go up pretty soon. And if you look at this picture, you can see they've got pipes, stairs, they've got almost everything already built into this tower. That is in contrast to Tower 1, which essentially had everything thrown on afterwards, which did make the stacking easier, and they could do it with a less heavy-duty crane, but that also meant they needed to carry a bunch of pipes and stairs and everything up a gigantic tower to work on it. So that was also not the best idea. But yeah, this one has everything on it already, and you can see workers working on it. You've got a bunch of work going on just to make sure everything's prepped and ready for rollout to the launch pad. And now over here you can see this is a beautiful picture that our photographer was able to get of Starbase itself. You can see Mega Bay 1 still has its door closed, unfortunately, so we can't get any look into at what the boosters are up to just yet, but we can see that there is some work being done still on Ship 30, which is the next flight ship. And here's some even closer pictures. So what you should be able to tell is that doesn't look like steel anymore. And that's because that is the new ablative layer that SpaceX has been working on putting on. So this ablative layer just acts as a backup. It's not intended to be the primary heat shield. It's not reusable. It's not there to be a primary source of protection. It is there in case a heat shield tile fails. And during the interview, Musk actually mentioned that they tested one layer of heat shield and then two layer of heat of the ablative heat shield, that is, one layer and then two layers of it. And the one layer was not able to burn, or the one layer burned through a little bit, and then this two layer one didn't burn through at all. So I guess one of the questions that some of us are curious about is, is this one layer of ablative heat shield or two? Because it's a little hard to tell. From what it looks like, it appears to only be one layer. So it seems they're confident that even if it does burn through a bit, because during the interview he also mentioned it burned through the ablative, but it might not have burned through the steel itself, which would be pretty interesting. So if you get a little bit of if you get a little toasty on the metal, it's not too big of a problem, because stainless steel is, I mean, as Musk mentioned, and as most of us know, like, stainless steel is fairly heat resistant. It's not heat proof, obviously, as we saw with the forward right flap, which is actually the flap we're staring at here. It is not fully heat proof. And also, on that note, you can also see that it's actually missing some tiles around the hinge now. So it wasn't missing those before, and a lot of us were curious if they were going to be replacing some of those tiles because they're more unique geometries. It appears SpaceX was just waiting to do them. So they'll probably be replacing most of this now with the new V2 tiles. And yeah, you can see there's also been some work on the nose cone at the very tip. They've grinded it down, or not grinded it, they've polished it down, getting all the residual glue off that was there. So we'll see if they put an ablative layer up here as well. And yeah, more work is being done across the ship. Here's another picture of the forward flap. And here's a picture of the aft flap, actually. You can see it's hard to tell if they've actually put the ablative on here or not, but it doesn't appear so. Any like darker shading actually looks to be more a reflection of the heat tiles. And you can see workers are still working all over it. And it appears he's actually applying some sort of a heat adhesive. We'll definitely keep an eye on everything here. And yeah, definitely watch the next episode. Also, I love that shirt. I want one. All right. So you can see in the spots where they have to apply adhesive, they do have to like polish it down a bit to get all the adhesive off, and they do sand it as well. So it's not, I'm saying polishing, but they're basically actually doing the opposite. They're trying to scuff it up so the glue sticks better. So it kind of serves a double purpose of removing the glue and ensuring new glue sticks better. So they have to do all that work on the adhesive sections, and it does appear that SpaceX is trying to get rid of those adhesive sections, especially here where the weld lines are, because we've seen some prototypes that actually have pins going all the way up to the weld lines now. But we'll see if they stick with that or what they is for that. All right, moving on to the launch pad now. You can actually see this is a pretty good shot of the entire launch pad, and you could probably pick up a few things, but we got some closer shots, so I'm going to bring us in a little closer so we can actually take a good look at that. So first of all, you can see it's not a normal sized booster. That's because we got B14.1 over here now. Rolled over from Massey's a few days ago, and they've been doing some testing. They've actually been, it's been weird. We'll definitely have to see what their plan is with it. They're doing some interesting stuff. They had a road closure for just today. It was supposed to start at 12 o'clock Central Time, so that's 12 o'clock Starbase time. But that closure ended up getting canceled. So we'll have to see if it's just postponed, and don't know why they canceled it. They might be running a few more tests before they try new things. But yeah, you can also see, we'll go back over to that, by the way. But you can see now all the GSC tanks are missing their shells. our photographer wasn't able to catch it just yet, but we'll be able to cover this in the next episode. But excuse me, they have actually started to remove one of the actual tanks, and that should be down on the ground like right about now if it isn't already. And they'll be chopping that up soon. But yeah, essentially they've decided to remove all the GSC shells first this time. Okay, I just heard that they haven't started lifting it yet. So, but that should be happening soon. They're probably just prepping the ground right now and making sure everything's good wind-wise and everything like that, because safety is very much a priority. Yeah, so they decided to remove all the shells first because it's quicker, because they have to change the actual like lifting hooks essentially, to switch from a shell to a tank. It's called a spreader jig. But yeah, for these, they decided, because they're just scrapping them all now, just take the shells off all at once, take all the tanks out, just get rid of them. We don't need them anymore. They're just taking up space. So get it done as fast as possible, essentially. And that's how they're doing it. Yeah, you can see one of those jigs there. It's still, in this picture, it's still hooked up to one of those shells. But since then, that shell has disappeared, and it's hooked up to one of the tanks now. Actually, I think you can see over here which tank it's likely hooked up to, with some burn marks down there. But yeah, over here at the tower, we once again have B14.1 along with a beautiful shot of the chopsticks. So B14.1 was tested at Massey's, so it is likely that B14.1's testing regime might be done, and now all the testing that they're going to be doing is more related to the chopsticks catching mechanism than booster 14.1's catching mechanism, because that's basically what's going to be doing most of the work during the landing. Like the booster itself knows how to hover. It knows, like, it was able to splash down in the ocean, so SpaceX knows it's going to work. And now that they've tested these lifting pins over at Massey's, which is why it was over there before, now that they've tested that, they're likely, their goal is to test the arms themselves, just to make sure everything works. Yeah, here's another slightly close picture. I'm pretty sure I'll, if I missed a picture, I'll go back and talk about B14.1 again, because I think I might have missed a picture. But over here, they brought in a new tank. I'm not sure if it's a methane, oxygen, or nitrogen tank, although I believe this is an oxygen tank, because I think they have all the methane tanks they need. It could also, and they should also have all the yeah, it's definitely not going to be methane. Yeah, so it's definitely not going to be methane, because it has special requirements for methane, but could be nitrogen, could be oxygen, but it's most likely oxygen, considering they got rid of all they're getting rid of all the oxygen tanks now, and those were previously used during the flights, but now, or actually it wasn't used during the last flight, but yeah, essentially this is likely their oxygen or nitrogen. Over here you can see our new crane. So it's not fully finished yet, but it's getting close, and they're building it fast. Yeah, so it's partially up. They have, it's a very large crane, so there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but it is already partially up. Because these pictures are a little old, they're from roughly a day ago. And of course, if you want the latest pictures, you should definitely sign up to our Patreon or become a channel member, because the moment our pictures are taken and the moment essentially our team gets access to them, you get access to them as well. So you'll get the latest and greatest photos from Starbase, from our amazing photographer, John. He gets all the best details. He gets everything. Yeah, this was the picture that I thought I might have missed. So this is B14.1, and it appears to be hooked up to the essentially it's not quite the booster quick disconnect, but it's some of the piping from it. This is likely just to maintain pressure in it, because the oh, actually, I just got confirmation that that is actually a water line, which okay, so it looks like they're filling it with water, which is pretty standard for mass simulation. Um, the it's basically they're using it to simulate the mass of a booster because I'm if you couldn't tell, it's not the full size of a booster and it's not the full weight of a booster. So they're using water to essentially get it to the weight it will be at launch or landing. Sorry. Yeah. Over here now, we got the SQD arm. So a little bit of work has been done on it since last time we talked about it, but not too much, mainly just some minor repair work, as well as a few like things to make sure that hopefully it'll survive the next launch. Over here, we have the base of the new tower. So you can see there's a bunch of scaffolding. Workers are working pretty quickly to make sure everything's built fast. So they should have that over. They should have one of those tower sections over pretty soon. They might need to wait a little bit for the concrete they're currently pouring. So they are currently pouring concrete into the base, and they will probably need to wait for that to set a little bit. So we'll see how long that takes. It shouldn't take too long. Okay. Okay, so according to our photographer John, we've got some road closures coming up on the 27th and 28th, actually, for tower sections moving. So 2 days. Of course, once they move, they might not get stacked immediately, but they'll be at the launch pad. And like I said, expect this tower to grow fast. The moment they start stacking those sections, it's like the tower, expect it to basically be fully vertical by flight 5. There's very little. It might not be fully operational yet, but it'll be fully built. Maybe not with the chopstick arms. We'll see how fast SpaceX is able to hook those up, but that also probably shouldn't take too long either. Oh, excuse me, I got the hiccups. Yeah. So I just heard it. It looks like they could probably put the arms on with some of the smaller cranes, so they're not going to need this massive crane for it. So it is likely they might also just wait till after launch, even because some of us are suspecting they might just take the crane down before Flight 5 to ensure it doesn't get damaged. But we'll have to see because maybe they have a contract with forgetting the name of the company, Sarens, I believe, is the name of the crane company, and they might have a like contract with them, which is basically like, I mean, hey, if we break your crane, we'll buy you a new one. But we'll see what SpaceX ends up doing. A lot of us are thinking that they're going to try and build this as fast as possible, though, and basically get it in and out as fast as it can. So don't expect it to be here for too long, unless, of course, SpaceX ends up having more tower sections that we don't know about, or unless SpaceX ends up building more tower sections at the build site or something like that. It's very interesting. We'll have to see what they do because this tower is supposed to be taller by a fair margin for version 2, or for block 2, sorry. But we'll see what they do. All right. So moving on from Starbase now. Yeah, we have a rocket that looks a little similar to another rocket over here in the US. This is, if you couldn't tell, over in China. And yeah, so this is essentially a test rocket by the looks of it. We're still finding out a bit of information, and we'll definitely know more by the full next episode. So look forward to that. We'll be talking about that soon. But this, if you can kind of tell, this isn't like a very large rocket compared to a Falcon 9. This is tiny. It appears to be more of like a mix between a Falcon 9 and a New Shepard. So about the same size as a New Shepard and using similar techniques to a Falcon 9, but it's got the fins at the bottom as well. So we'll see what their plan is with it. We'll see if it works, but and it's interesting, so I thought I'd include it in here. Next up, we have Starliner, or Stuckliner, or Stayliner, or whatever you want to call it, because it is still at the International Space Station after a while. It was not supposed to be here for this long. I mean, I'm sure the astronauts aren't too bummed about it. They get extra time in space and extra time to just float around on the ISS. So I'm sure they're definitely taking advantage of it. And we've actually seen them just doing work around the International Space Station. So it does, they're essentially, NASA isn't very concerned with the safety of Starliner, at least that we're aware of, and for the time being. They're not very concerned with the safety because all of the current failures are well within the current safety margins. But having those failures is not something they want. And basically all of those failures occur down here in the service module. And NASA and Boeing can't get that back from re-entry. Once the Starliner capsule re-enters, it's only the capsule itself. Any malfunctions, anything that's wrong in the service module, they need to basically find out what's going on now, because they're not going to get a chance to analyze it on the ground, and they're not going to be getting any more data. So the main reason they're staying up there is to get as much data as possible, get as much knowledge as possible to make sure that they know that this service module isn't going to malfunction in the future, and they know how to fix it. Of course, Starliner has had similar problems on the previous 2 flights, so it's kind of surprising that they didn't get it fixed then. But, you know, we'll definitely keep an eye on everything. And, of course, it's a test flight. It's very early in the program. You have to remember SpaceX's Dragon had quite a few problems as well. I mean, one of them kind of disappeared on a test pad at one point. For anybody that remembers, the Crew Dragon has had problems too. So it's space flight. Space is hard, and so far, as many malfunctions as the Starliner has had, every capsule has made it back safely, and it's very unlikely that anything bad is actually going to happen. This is just NASA and Boeing being extremely safe, because they neither of them want to lose an astronaut or a capsule, because obviously. So this is just them being extra cautious and getting as much information as possible. So it's not really too much of a concern. If anything, it's going to be more of a concern for when Starliner is actually going to start actual operations. That is more the question that a lot of people are asking now, because all the systems are safe, but there are still things that need to be fixed, and especially on a longer mission, a helium leak or 5 could make the mission run a little shorter than NASA wants. So they want to fix it, make sure everything works well. All right, so that's actually the end of the pictures we got, but there are still a few things I want to talk about. There we go. So one of them being, in just a couple hours, actually, I think I need to reload this page real quick, because, yeah. Yep, in 2 hours and 49 minutes, we have the next Falcon Heavy launch, which is always a delight to watch. And it's 2 return to launch sites. And yeah, it's a GOES-U meteorology satellite. You should definitely check out our website if you want any more information. We've got a bunch of stuff, as well as some amazing renders of the rockets, which you can take a look at. And yeah, you can even, I guess that. So it's got a bunch of information, and it'll be launching at 5:16 today, Eastern Standard Time. So not Starbase time this time. So basically, whatever it is in 2 hours and 48 minutes for you, that's when the next Falcon Heavy will be launching, and we should be live streaming it on the channel. So definitely be sure to keep an eye out for that in just a bit, and we'll go live to watch the next really cool rocket launch. All right, the last piece of news I'm going to be covering today is a little frustrating, to be honest. This is a complaint, essentially, that Blue Origin and also ULA have raised. Also, thank you to Christian Davenport for finding this. Essentially, Blue Origin and ULA made some. Yeah, they essentially complained. Yeah, they filed a motion or complaint to the FAA saying that basically they don't want Starship and Super Heavy to launch very often from LC-39A, which is frustrating, to say the least. And yeah, so this is both of them essentially saying similar things, that they don't want Starship to launch from there. We're gonna go into a bit more detail on the next episode, so I'm not gonna say too much about it, but I'm just gonna say it's frustrating because I mean, I'd say Jared Isaacman actually responded to this, who Jared Isaacman currently has multiple crewed missions booked with SpaceX, and has been a supporter of them. And he was the commander of the first all-private spaceflight Inspiration 4, which also raised a bunch of money for St. Jude. So really cool person. I actually got to meet him once. Really nice guy. Really cool. And I'd say his response sums it up pretty good. I think ULA and Blue Origin should spend more time on their product and capabilities. Yeah. So that's basically all I'm going to say about it for now. Of course, definitely check out our upcoming video, and yeah, that basically rounds everything out for today's Space Roundup. We've gone through a lot, and of course, if you haven't watched today's episode, came out this morning, so be sure to check that out. It's got a bunch of interesting information and a bunch of updates from a couple days ago, as well as going into more detail about Tim's interview with Musk, the first one. So be sure to check that out. And the next episode will be covering the second part, as well as some of the information I covered today. But be sure to check out the one that's currently on the channel. Don't forget to hit that like button, press subscribe, and yeah. Also, don't forget to check out Y+, where we'll also be showing a bunch of these photos. So if you want to see the photos I showed here, as well as a bunch of other ones, as well as videos, because our photographer doesn't just take photos, he gets full videos of the site and everything going on there. If you want to check that out, be sure to head over to Y+. And yeah, we've also got our 24/7 stream currently running, and that's basically a live view of Starbase, and you'll be able to see anytime they take a tank down or decide to do something weird with B14.1. So yeah, be sure to check those out. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and if you'd like even more rapid updates and to see our photos and videos the moment they come out, be sure to become a channel member or subscribe to our Patreon as well. And yeah, all right, have a good day, everybody, or night, or whatever time it is for you. I hope you have a good time. All right, thanks for stopping by, and if you want to watch the Falcon Heavy launch, I'll probably be there too. So be sure to check that out in just a few hours. All right, that'll be it. See you, everybody.